Hi and welcome to another narration presented by yours truly, Cryptids Roost. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to tap the notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. Oh, and don't forget to share the video far and wide. This will all help with YouTube's algorithm and will help promote the channel more. If you enjoy listening to the following story, be sure to pop over to the author's Reddit profile and drop them a line, or even give them a glowing review. I'm sure they would appreciate it. The link to their Reddit profile will be below in the description. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. Can anyone help me? I'm on a bus that refuses to stop. I don't know where I am. Part 7. This fantastic series is written by Darkly Gathers, a wonderful author over on Reddit's nosleep subreddit. With the departure of the winged mechanical monster, I allow myself to crash down into a seat, to run my hands over my dust-spattered face. I can't take much more of this. These adrenaline-pumping bursts of intensity. I let out a laugh as I realised how insanely brave I just was in the face of such terror, staring down the dark titan. The laugh, however, melts quickly into a sob. Leah slumps back into a seat herself, staring out into nothing with an expression of deep thought across her face. And my brother rushes to my side at once, crouching down beside me. The man who calls himself my brother, at least. I squeeze my eyes tight shut for a moment. Fuck, the words of the machine have gotten into my head. He was so convincing, the machine. Metataro. He knew exactly what to say to play on my fears, my insecurities and my concerns. I open my eyes and look into his, the eyes of my brother. These, at least, are as young as I remember them being. I want to trust him. I want to believe in him with my full heart. But the damage is done. Doubt, to my dismay, has settled in. We pass a lone lamppost in the desert and its shadow passes fast across Ryan's face. "Are you okay?" he asks. "Honestly? No, not really." He nods. "Yeah, that's understandable. But you know he was lying, don't you? That's what he does. I don't love playing the hero. I'm here because I love you, and I'm here because finding you was the right thing to do. The guilt was maddening, but deserved. It's my fault you're even here, so..." He shrugs and rubs the back of his head, and for a second I see my little brother, the teenager as he once was. He's so different now, marked by scars. They run through his eyebrows and down his cheeks, across his neck. This is him, I forced myself to believe. He went through this for me. Only for you though, Yaz. I glanced down to the shining silver cross that hangs around my brother's neck. "Who is Christy, Rye?" I ask him. Rye pulls back and sighs, not in frustration, just in sadness maybe. "Someone very dear to me," he replies simply. Lacking the energy to probe this further, I instead just turn away. I look at Leah, sat in a seat beneath the bus's remaining roof, as the desert scrolls by through the windows beside her. The edges of her hair and shoulders are tinged in orange. Feeling perhaps my gaze, she looks up to meet it. She smiles sadly. "You were incredible, Yaz, just now. The way you spoke to him. You were so brave. I just sat there with my mouth closed like an idiot. I wanted to defend myself and you, but I just couldn't find the words. I'm really sorry. This is all so crazy. It's been so long since anyone has given me any real praise, a compliment. I ache to reach out and to cling to it and to hold it close, to absorb it and soak in the kindness. But whilst the doubt regarding Rye has been merely sprinkled like dust, my concerns with Leah have taken a deep root. As desperate as I am for this girl to be my friend, this girl who, to be honest, is so similar to myself, the way I used to be back when I had actual peers who cared about my well-being, back when I was cool and interesting. As desperate as I am to trust her, I just can't. Not anymore. The way the machine spoke to her, the things it said, the enduring fact that she knew about this world before me. Rai said that Metadaro lies, but what if Rai is wrong? What is Leah hiding from me? She has reasonable explanations for all your concerns. She saved you from jumping from the bus and into the watery wall of the Leviathan, but Metataro said that you'd be safer off the bus. Is he right? Fuck! I rap my knuckles against my forehead. My head hurts, and my throat is still death dry. I reach out for one of our bottles of water and take another swig, and as I do so, my stomach rumbles loudly. I don't even care. I'm way past the point of embarrassment. Rai draws back and casts an eye over the crumpled packets of chips and cookies. Seems like you guys haven't had much to eat. Doesn't look like you had a great deal in your crate, to be honest. I can get these cans open for us, at least. He hunkers down in the aisle and draws a knife from his satchel. He unsheaths it and stabs it into the lids of one of the cans at an angle, working it steadily and carefully around until he is able to empty the food into a little army-style mess tin. My stove is out of gas, I'm afraid. Might find some canisters in the Axis Mundi, but for now, it's going to have to be cold, if that's okay. He offers it to me, along with a little metal fork. Looks like a simple tomato-based ravioli. I only have the one tin, he says apologetically, turning to Leah, so you guys will have to share. Leah puts out a hand. I'm really not hungry, but thank you. Save some for me if you like, Yaz, and I'll eat later. I am hungry, so I nod to her and thank my brother, and start to greedily munch it down. It's not half bad actually, it's almost warm. I offer some to Rai and we pass it back and forth, sharing what sustenance there is. Probably best to save the other cans. The buzzer goes off one more time before we depart City 2. If the shattered skeletal remains of lampposts and endless desert can even be called a city, that is. We're still eating when it happens, and Leah and I both start in alarm. But Rai puts out a hand. He swallows his mouthful and rises to a stand. This one shouldn't take long, hopefully. Be ready to hold your breaths if I give the command. Hold our breaths. He has jumped onto the seats before the speaker has even finished his indecipherable crackling, though I swear I can pick out the words, memories. Rai swings around his satchel and the sky's orange glints off a little silver buttons along the straps. He reaches in and draws from inside a shining gun, a revolver of some kind, maybe. I'm not great with weapons. Jesus, Rai, I say to him, but he doesn't respond. He closes an eye and with that impeccable balance he holds himself in place and looks down the barrel. I follow his sights. Something approaching from the ruins of an iron shack out in the desert. A roughly child-sized bird-like machine, flying like Metadaro. Its wings are proportionally much larger, but overall this machine seems to be far smaller than its predecessor. Rai mutters something under his breath, then a little louder he says, "Cover your ears!" Leah and I do just that. There's no way he's going to shoot that thing from here, surely. With that thing, it's too far away. But he fires. The noise reverberates angrily around the bus, and the leftmost wing of the machine is clipped. The thing lets out a screech as its flight pattern is bitterly disrupted. It starts leaking oil across the sands as it twists and spirals out of control. Fuck! Not good enough, it's still going to hit the bus. Hold your breaths, Rai bellows. and fires again. This bullet tears right through the body of the machine with an explosion of sparks, and the screeching stops at once. The machine's trajectory is set, however, and as it falls it crashes hard into the side of the bus. The impact releases a shower of bolts and little gears, and something else too, a great and sudden billow of black-purple smoke. A watery cloud, one that is largely lost behind us as the bus speeds away. But a little of the wisps still seep through the windows and over our immediate surroundings. There are more windows that are shattered and smashed than ones that aren't now. Rai looks pointedly between us, stashing away the gun and holding his nose, tapping his throat with his free hand. The message is clear, and we follow it. Well, I try to, at least. I hold my breath for as long as I can. Honestly, I really do. I feel my face turning red as I clench my fists again and again, over and over. My lungs start to ache. The desert rolls by and we pass the melted, tireless remains of what might once have been a tractor, half buried in the sands beneath an enormous sign. Now leaving City 2. City 3, 70 miles. And accompanied as always by a string of faded Japanese text. That smoke must have dissipated by now. I can't see it anywhere, and I need to breathe. I need air. I look from Leah to Rai. Bree just furrows his brow and taps his throat. I bounce my foot rapidly against the floor of the bus. Air. Just one breath, one quick breath. Reluctantly, I open my mouth and allow some in. I have definitely missed the worst of the fumes. That's my first thought. There's no visible trace of the smoke around us at all, and the great holes in the bus had, I had been hoping, largely blown the smoke away. They hadn't been entirely successful, however, is my second thought, because I do inhale something. The very tail end of the gas, but it's enough for me to slump right back in my seat. All of a sudden, as if I'm floating through water, I can see Rai jump down from the seat and approach me. But he's moving so slowly, so damn slowly, and that familiar orange tinge to the world around is replaced by a glittering pale purple. It's beautiful, at first. Beautiful until I see Courtney's face in the shadows. I try to turn to look, but my head is so heavy, so unfairly heavy all of a sudden. And there she is again in the shadows on the opposite side. I try to turn back, the shadows blend, and I find myself at school. I'm playing ice hockey. This is right back when I first moved here. I played the sport for my previous school, and my dad made me try out for the new team. I remember this moment. I remember it well. Courtney is racing towards me. She's going to knock right into me and I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall and break my collarbone in the process. And that's what I get for scoring a goal, I guess. And this isn't even the worst part. The worst part is that I'm smiling. I can even feel the muscles in my face, and try as I might, I can't change them. I can't alter the memory. I'm smiling because I hate confrontation. I can see her come towards me. I see the malice in her face, and I still want to give her the benefit of the doubt. My first instinct is to play the submissive and to try and defuse the situation. Maybe if I smile, she won't see me as a threat. But all the smile serves to do is intensify the humiliation when she knocks me down to the ice with a juddering crack. She's going to make a joke now to one of her friends. I can feel it sting, prematurely, but it's here that the memory fades. The scenes around me shimmer and waver like steam as I realise that my head is pressed against glass, not ice. I'm not wearing my hockey gear. The purple tinge fades and the orange hue of the sky returns. The cool of the rink is lost to the claustrophobic warmth of the bus. Yaz, you okay? Rai says. His voice doesn't seem to be synced with his lips. I groan and I close my eyes tight shut for a moment, leaning forwards. Cautiously I open them again and I see them a little clearer. Leah and Rai looking over me with concern. "Yeah," I murmur. "I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I helped for as long as I could. I thought all that stuff had evaporated. Yeah, I'm sorry too. I should have explained what it was beforehand. It just doesn't sound scary when you describe it, and I thought if I did so you guys wouldn't take it seriously." "So what is it?" Leah asks him. He grimaces. "The smoke draws up painful memories, or happy memories sometimes, I think, but warped into nightmares. Plays them over and over again, spinning a labyrinth. One that you have to work to find your way out of. Believe me, it's hell." He squeezes my knee and then pulls back and away to double check his gun. "Once again, I'm the only one targeted, it would seem," I mutter, and I'm pretty sure that Leah hears. We exchange a look. We say nothing further, but meaning is passed between us like electricity. She actually looks hurt, and I'm struck by a wave of guilt. "You really want to do this, Yaz? You really want to drive away the only non-relative friend you've made in 3 years? Leah turns away. "How come you didn't use that thing on the machine, Ryan?" she asks him, gesturing to the gun. "The speaking one, I mean, Metataro. Doesn't have that many bullets anymore, and I haven't been able to find replacements." Seemingly satisfied with what he sees, he stashes the weapon away for a second time. "And sometimes it's better not to fire. Christy stopped me using that thing on the train, and it saved my damn life." "Train?" Leah repeats, and Rai hesitates. "Rai, please," I begin, "just tell us, how did you get here? How long have you been here? And who is Christy? How did Metataro know who she was?" Questions, questions, questions. Rai rubs his gloved hand across his forehead. He looks remarkably old all of a sudden, even beyond his years, stretched and wearied and well travelled, to say the least, of his journeys. He sits in silence for a long hour's time. We watch the desert wastes shimmer by beyond the broken glass. "Christy," he says eventually, his voice clear but gravelly, "is the first girl I met on the train. 5 years after your disappearance, Yaz. 5 years after I signed you up to this hell." I shiver. The thought that there might well exist out there a world in which our parents have lost both their children is a disturbing and upsetting one. Lost to this poisoned land. The story of a train is a long and disquieting one, so I will save its bulk for another time. But to put it simply, it is yet another way to travel between worlds. I tried signing myself up for this very bus at first, you know, but I couldn't do it. Try as I might, I just couldn't find that fucking forum, and I searched for years." He sighs. "The train is unrelated entirely to this place, I believe. The two are not directly linked in any kind of meaningful way. And I tell you what else, it's hard as fuck to even get on board, and it's harder still to keep your nerve once on it." He carefully draws off his glove and shows us the back of his hand. Marked there is an intricate scar, one that Rai has surely carved himself. It looks vaguely like some kind of ancient rune, a rough R-shaped, comprised of 4 straight lines. "Tickets are paid in blood, is my understanding," he murmurs, some painful memory no doubt returning to him as he allows his eyes to wander the shape of the scar. He raises his gaze. "Anyway, I boarded the train in the hopes that it would lead me here, Yaz. To you. And the folks who run the train don't like noise. No disturbances, that sort of thing. I didn't know this at first, and I found myself in an altercation about a week into my journey." "A week?" I reply. "You were on the train for a week?" Rai chuckles dryly. "I was on it for a hell of a lot longer than that, Yaz. a hell of a lot longer, and I nearly fired the gun barely 7 days into my trip. Had I done so, I likely wouldn't be sitting across from the two of you. Christy stopped me. She calmed me down. She saved me. He draws in a deep and ragged breath. I can tell that this is painful for him to recall. We got to talking. She was riding to try and find her sister, a girl who got lost following some foolish, misguided personal ritual. He shakes his head. The things we do. The engine rumbles. The bus drives, ever onward, down the length of this bendless road through the barren sands of the desert. We saw some incredible things, you know, Christy and I. For years we travelled from world to world. We fought the silver tide on the coast of an impossible black cliff, beneath a sky of swirling gold. He smiles in fond memory. There's a lighthouse keeper there that still owes me a favour, in fact. I listened, confused but enraptured. Christy was amazing from start to finish. We fell in love, of course. I asked her to marry me in a realm of shimmering tendons, in a place where great veins flowed like rivers through the earth. He reaches up to the cross around his neck. And we did find her sister. We saved her amidst the rush of a storm, on the head of a living mountain. I can still hear its roars sometimes, loud above the thunder when I try to sleep at night. But after we returned her safely home, Christy chose to stay. She chose to stay with me. I had helped her to find a sister, she said, and she owed it to me to help me find mine. So we travelled onwards, station to station, world to world, until at long last it brought us here, to the shattered remains of the so-called New Eden. My first journey on this very bus was with Christy, the second too. He rubs his chin. I'm rambling. This isn't what you asked. I'm sorry. Basically, Yaz, Christy was killed during one of these tests. We were helping a boy, the youngest we'd seen. He couldn't have been any older than 11. His jaw tightens. Christy died defending me, fixing one of my mistakes as she so often did, and she was torn from the bus, killed in seconds, I'm sure of it. I would have leapt after her had she not made me promise to help the boy. We'll get him home, Ryan, she said. Promise me we'll get him home. Ryan taps his dusty knuckles against his head and forces the words to keep coming, strained as they are. I doubt he'd ever had to recall these memories before, not quite like this. That kid wouldn't have stood a chance without me, so I kept my promise. I got him through the tests, and when I was able to finally send him on his way, I built Christy a shrine in my grief, in the Axis Mundi, a shrine to Christy. That fucking speaking bastard machine claims that she was alive at that point, that she was calling out for me. Wright trails off and rises to a sudden stand, fists clenched. He gathers himself and looks down at me, his eyes wet. Metataro lies. He lies, he lies, he lies. I did not abandon Christy. I kept my promise. There's no way she survived the fall from the bus. Not in the state she was in. There's no way. He shakes his head. He sounds as if he's convincing himself more than anyone else. There's just no way. My heart goes out to him. I reach out a tentative hand and I gently squeeze his arm. Leah offers a sympathetic smile. Ry looks out at the wasteland, the wind ruffling his hair. The orange light of the scorched sky shines fiercely in his eyes, and the silver cross around his neck flashes bright. Metataro may be a liar. I do not know exactly what kind of web is being spun here, in these wastes. But the machine was right about one thing at the least. He referred to my brother as a stranger, and you know what? He spoke true. I love my brother dearly, as I always have, and I always will. But this man who stands before me, he is in part a stranger to me now, and I do not know him as I once did. I do not know this man. Part 8. The 70 miles between the border, ill-defined as it is, of City 2 and the welcome sign for City 3 are largely uneventful. At Leah's prompting, Wright tells us another story of his time aboard the train, but we both get the sense that the memories are painful for him, so once he's finished, we ask him nothing further. He takes the opportunity to head to the shade at the back of the bus to try and grab a little sleep before the arrival of the next test. This leaves Leah and I alone near the front. We talk some. It's a little strained at first, but we quickly fall back into our previous flow. We play some tic-tac-toe in the dust on the back of a seat. We talk about Courtney and my life back home. I ask her about hers. I ask her more about her family life. She reiterates that she doesn't get on with her brothers and sisters, that her parents don't appreciate her. I ask how come I've never seen her at school. She tells me she goes somewhere different. I ask her what she wants to be when she's older. She says anything that will allow her travel and freedom. Her answers are vague, by themselves not vague enough to be suspicious, but together they tell me a great deal. She is hiding something. Don't think I haven't realised this, reader. I am aware and I have logged the risk, but I have made my choice. I can choose to remain friends with her, this girl who has in all likelihood saved my life, a girl who has shown me nothing but kindness, or I can cast it aside on the twisted and poisonous words of Metadaro and my own ill-informed doubts. It will do me no good to alienate myself or to turn her away from me in a place like this. But even with all this stuff in mind, my choice isn't a tactical one, it's a personal one. I just miss talking to people, okay? I miss being listened to and valued. I miss someone actually giving a damn. I miss physical contact that isn't a passing shove in the corridor. I'm only human, after all. We talk a little bit about the young woman at the beginning, the sleeping girl who was taken from the bus. Do you think she might still be alive, Leah? She shrugs. I hope so. It's totally possible. It didn't look like the machine hurt her as it took her away. I consider. Asleep, a girl sleeping at the back of the bus. I'm so close. I have so many pieces of the puzzle. I can feel it. I just can't quite seem to fit them all together. What do you think it all means, Leah? There's something yet to be revealed. I can feel it. We couldn't wake her up. I think back. I fell asleep on the bus too. I was sleeping for over an hour, and that never happens. I don't sleep on public transport. And you were asleep too, weren't you? You woke up and that guy was next to you. Leah nods. Is falling asleep on buses something that you do often? No, it isn't. So what does it mean? What aren't we seeing? I don't know, she says sadly, looking out through the window. She's lying. I'm not going to press the issue, but hell, I hope it's for a good reason. I really, really hope it's for a damn good reason. I'm trusting you, Leah. Please don't let me down. Not you too. I don't think my heart can take it. I follow her gaze through the cracked and dusty glass. Something steams in the distance. It's too far away to tell what it is, but the thing is dark and clustered against the horizon. Thin smoke wafting up and into the air. Ruin and desolation everywhere you look. We pass by the faded sign for City 3, and with a sudden grunt, Wright wakes from some grim dream, his leg twitching as his eyes snap open. He takes in a breath and stretches his back, then runs a hand over his face. Leah and I watch quietly as he rises to a stand and clambers onto a nearby seat, grabbing the lip of the torn ceiling of the bus and hoisting himself up onto the roof. He climbs over and lays down on the metal, Then he crosses his hands behind his head and looks up to the sky. Leah nudges me. You should join him, she says, and I think she might be right. I walk down the aisle and do as he did, albeit a little more clumsily. Seat to seat, then up to the roof with a grunt. When Rai sees what I'm attempting, he turns and reaches out a hand to help me up. The wind catches my hair, but it's actually kind of nice up here. Relatively speaking, of course. It feels slightly cooler than it did down there in the body of the bus. I lay down beside him and we look up to the sky, orange and ominous. The low red sun wavers far in the distance. This place used to be beautiful, Rai murmurs eventually. I'm sure of it. At the Axis Mundi, I was given a glimpse through the eyes of the operators. I was given the smallest tastes for their vision, and misguided as it was beautiful, Yaz. Something appears to our right, far out in the scorched black sands. It's an enormous, monstrous wheel, massive and half buried in the desert. As it passes us, a faint and faded flickering light, dim red in colour, sparks in and out of life around the wheel's edge. I mean, just look at that thing out there. What do you think it was? What was its purpose? Maybe it's the only surviving piece of something much, much larger, some magical piece of technology. And hell, how big even is this place? He sighs. I really don't know what the true purpose was for this world, but it was never meant to be anything sinister, I'm sure of it. The machines call it Yomi now, though whether this is some sick joke from their programmers or a concept they have created themselves, I do not know. But I don't know which option is the more unsettling. I gather my courage and ask Rai a question I've been dreading. Right, at the very beginning, the first time the buzzer came on, there was another girl on our bus. She was sleeping and we weren't able to stop her being taken by the machines. Do you know what might have happened to her? Rai meets my gaze, but shakes his head. The first test. I've ridden a bus a whole load, Yaz. Sometimes there are sleeping passengers, sometimes there aren't. I don't know their deal, but I do know that the first test holds some kind of immense importance. I say nothing. This isn't the answer I was hoping for, but on the other hand, I'm also a little relieved that he didn't say, for instance, that she was going to get ripped to pieces by a horde of angry machines. You know, I think I even saw one once in the Axis Mundi, he says, a sleeping human, through a panel of clouded glass, but I was never sure and my searches yielded nothing. How did you manage that, Rai? How did you get off the bus? Did you just jump? Were you okay? There's been moments in my travels when the bus was slowed. I have jumped out, yes, he pauses. But you should know, Yaz, the bus does stop. At the Axis Mundi, the bus comes to a stop for a little while. It stops? I stare at him. Yes, but if you get out, then you have to return before it departs, because if you miss it, Yaz, then you miss it. It won't wait, it won't turn back, and there's no telling how long you might be waiting for another to come along. I have so many more questions for him. I want to hear him tell me about what he found in the Axis Mundi, about Christy, a girl he loved so much that he asked her to marry him, about his theories and thoughts and ideas, about how he means to fix the issue of our newly disparate ages, about what he means to do when he returns home and how he plans to readjust to the world we call home after his many years away. But these questions will have to wait, because at that moment the buzzer sounds and my stomach lurches with dreadful anticipation. I know that if I were to turn around and look back into the bus, I would see the orange bulb by the ceiling, alight and bright. I can't hear the crackling speaker from up here, but I know he must be mumbling at this very moment. Fuck! Rai jumps up and looks around. The marker I used the last time, it's gone. I'm sorry, I should have been ready. He twists and cups his hands around his mouth, shouting down into the bus to Leah. Don't move, alright? Stay perfectly still. As still as you can. Don't speak, don't react, don't respond. He turns to me. You can go back down if you like, into the bus. There might still be time. Or you can stay up here with me if you prefer. Just remain still, okay? This test is on movement, on reaction. Just stay as still as you're able until I say, alright? Alright, I'll stay up here. I won't screw up this time, I promise. He laughs, and the sound is painfully bittersweet. He knocks me on the arm. You didn't screw up. You're so much more competent than you give yourself credit for. A sudden urge to apologise to him overcomes me, and the words are out before I can stop them. I'm sorry about our argument, Rai, the one that started all this. I'm sorry about what I said. You know, I'd never mean to hurt your feelings, don't you? I just hold you in such high regard, I always have. He cuts me off, gently. It's okay, Yaz. I'm sorry too. And I'm the one with the greater cause. I'm so sorry for everything. And I hope one day you'll forgive me. But for now, he puts the fingers to his lips and lays back. Be brave, stay still, stay strong. Okay, I will. At first, I am shaking. There is a low droning in the air carried by the wind, and the awful anticipation only rises and rises. But I focus my mind. I draw on every ounce of will I can muster, and I force myself still, silent and still, on the ceiling of this accursed bus. The droning grows louder, and there is the sound of shattering glass from below. Leah, but I don't move. My gaze remains fixed on the sky, waiting, waiting, and something hovers in the corner of my vision, loud and close and angry. It takes the form of a massive, almost man-sized mechanical wasp, built entirely from a scratched, grey-black metal. The wasp's torso leads into a human-like metal skull, eyeless and grinning. In place of a stinger at the base of its rusted metal abdomen is an enormous, sharpened scythe, like a reaper. It hangs in the air just above my chest as the nightmarish droning swarms my ears. A second of these monsters appears in my line of sight, and it hovers steadily behind its brother, moving from side to side. Yaz, my brother whispers, and I almost turn to him. I almost turn to see what it is he needs to say, but it's not him. The voice comes from above, not beside. It's a distortion, a trick of the wasp. So I remain still, sweating, and drenched in an ice-cold primal fear as the wasps drone from place to place all around. Go on, Yaz, turn to me, ask me for my help. If you are not strong enough to resist them, it's okay. You've been so strong for so long. It's okay to allow others in for help. Have you forgotten how to let people in? It's not him, I keep telling myself. The voice is a trick. Don't fall for it. The great wasp hovers closer. A string of Japanese text and a short serial number becomes clear on the largest plate of its thorax. Deuteron-7:20, it reads. Gears turn and grind below, and from its myriad mechanisms unfurls a disturbingly human arm. It reaches out, its metal fingers mere inches above my face. You can't get me, Wasp. I will not move. I will not move. And for a long, long minute the machine hovers in place, black against the orange sky, waiting and watching. Then mercifully it pulls back. For a moment I am flooded with hope. This is it, I think. I passed the test. We both did. But the wasp above me adjusts its position. At the edge of my line of sight, it hovers itself over my brother, scythe sharp and glinting orange in the dusky light, and it strikes down hard to the sound of a terrible scream. Ryan! I cry out in panic, sitting right up and scrambling to his side, heart pounding like a frenzied hammer in my chest. But Ryan is fine. Aside from his eyes, which stared at me in shock and surprise, his entire body remained safely rigid. The scythe of the wasp did not strike into him at all. It only scraped the metal of the bus's ceiling to his side. The scream was just another trick, and I realised to my dismay that once again I have failed. The eyeless skull of the wasp swivels to face me at once. Gotcha, it might as well be saying. And here it is that all hell broke loose. In a motion I did not think possible, a movement of absolute liquid speed, Ryan spins on the spot as he rises to a stand. His satchel whips around, the silver buttons and the cross on his neck all reflecting the surrounding light in electric flashes, and before I can even process, his gun is in his hand. His tattered brown coat is caught in the wind and billows up behind us, back down the path of the road, and his eyes burn with lightning focus and intensity as the hammer of the revolver slams backwards again and again. The droning mechanical wasp headed right towards me is blasted off course with a bullet through the head, and another through its chest sees it fall catastrophically and spiral down to the road with a burst of oily flame. The wasps go to Rye now. I could help him. My bladed magnet is in my belt. "Don't move!" he commands in a voice like thunder as the wasps descend, casting him in dark in their shadows. He fires again and again and again, each bullet hitting its mark, and the wasps sputter and crash down all around. One of them strikes the side of the bus and takes a shower of glass along with it before being crushed with a crunch beneath the wheel. Rye draws his magnet-like blade like a sword and pulls two of the wasps together, slamming the end of the weapon into the head of the first and dragging it round in an arc to collide with the body of the second. A crash and a further flurry of sparks, and together they careen through the air and join the wreckages of their brothers in the wastes. There's only one wasp left now that I can see, a dark and apocalyptic blight on the sky, hanging as a mechanical monstrosity in the air in Ryan's blind spot. We hear a whisper, my brother and I. It's the voice of a woman I do not recognise. "Why did you leave me behind, Ryan? You know that I would never have left you behind." "Christy?" Rye asks in a voice that breaks my heart. He turns to look for a woman that is not there, and the scythe of the wasp strikes down, plunging directly into his back and out through the front of his chest. The world around me slows as Rye looks down to the blood-thickened blade protruding from his torso. The droning of the wasp grows louder and into a gleeful frenzy. Its wing has been clipped and it struggles to fly, but it doesn't care. It has its prize. The gun drops from Ryan's hand and I watch it in slow motion as it tumbles through the air, hits the edge of the bus and falls slowly away and out of sight. "Yes," Rye murmurs as his eyes go dark. He tries to say something else as well, something about the first test, but his words fail him, and together with the wasp he collapses from his position. With the graceful fall of a corpse, he slips from the roof of the bus, and there is nothing I can do but watch. Watch as the life leaves his body, and together with his killer they crash down hard to the dust of the road. With a burst of flame, a spout of oil, and a torrent of terrible deep red blood. And still I can only watch. I watch as my brother disappears gradually from sight. His journey has at last come to an end, as a wreck upon the road. Don't forget, if you enjoyed that story, be sure to pop over to the author's Reddit profile and drop them a line, or even give them a glowing review. I'm sure they really would appreciate it. The link to their Reddit profile will be below in the description. And don't forget to check out the merch store. The link will be in the description and also in the video thumbnail. And if you'd like an honourable mention, send in a snapshot of yourself with your purchase and I'll feature it in one of the videos. Have you written a creepypasta story you would like me to narrate? Have you had any cryptid sightings, paranormal or supernatural encounters, or even had a creepy or terrifying situation you would like to share? Well, I now have my very own subreddit community. where you can submit your stories. The link for that is also in the thumbnail as well as below in the description. You can submit your stories there, or you can send them to cryptidsroost@gmail.com. If you wish to remain anonymous, that's fine with me. Now I also have a Facebook group, Twitter, Reddit and Discord. And if you'd like to support the channel and help make it grow, my PayPal is paypal.me/cryptidsroost. If you wish to remain anonymous, that's fine with me. Now I also have a Facebook group, Twitter, Reddit and Discord. And if you would like to support the channel and help make it grow, my PayPal is paypal.me/cryptidsroost. And any and all donations would be gratefully received. Again, that will also be below. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.